Across 3 continents, centuries-old darkness moves silently. From the haunted alleys of Manila to the shadowed warehouses of Istanbul to quiet homes in Virginia and deep into the mysterious forests of Siquijor, one cursed doll has chosen her victims. Her name is Mira, the Labubu Doll. She is not a toy. She is a haunted object, a collector of spirits, a vessel of dark curses, paranormal terror, and unspeakable secrets. Families vanish, investigators disappear, shadows whisper, yellow eyes watch from every corner, from every room, from every story you think is safe. This is no ordinary horror. This is true supernatural terror, cursed dolls, and the unrelenting power of a being that chooses its prey. Listen closely, because once you hear her story, you may already be part of it. Manila, Istanbul, Virginia, Siquijor. Every place she touches bleeds into the next. Every home she enters becomes a stage for darkness. And tonight, you are about to witness the full awakening of Mira, the Labubu Doll.
Every home, every shadow, I am already there.
In the labyrinthine alleys of Istanbul's Grand Bazaar, hidden beneath layers of dust and shadow, lay a Labubu doll named Mira. Her eyes, yellow and unblinking, held a darkness that had outlasted centuries. When an American collector named Mark Turner brought her across the ocean to a quiet Virginia suburb, he did not just bring a doll. He invited a nightmare. From the moment Mira arrived, the air grew colder, shadows stretched longer, and whispers echoed where silence once lived. And in the heart of it all was a little girl whose eyes soon began to mirror the doll's sinister glow. This is a tale of a curse that crossed continents and a darkness that refuses to be forgotten.
Bring me home.
Mark Turner entered the cramped antique shop with curiosity and a hunger for the rare. Mira rested under a cracked glass dome, dust thick upon her fabric dress, her yellowed eyes staring blankly but somehow alive. The old shopkeeper's voice was trembling as he warned Mark, "This doll is no ordinary toy. Do not place her where children sleep."
Listen closely.
Ignoring the warning, Mark carefully wrapped Mira and shipped her to his home in Virginia. The journey was long, the box battered by rain and time. When it finally arrived, the air in the house shifted. A sudden chill settled like a shadow in the walls.
I am coming.
Mark unpacked Mira and placed her carefully on a shelf in his daughter Emily's room. That night, the lights flickered, and Emily awoke to see the doll staring at her from across the room. Her eyes, once bright and curious, began to dim and shimmer with an unnatural yellow glow.
Sleep is for the weak.
Emily whispered to Mira, her voice barely audible. "Will you stay with me?" she asked. The doll's cracked porcelain lips seemed to curl into a faint smile. Shadows lengthened in the corners of the room, stretching toward the bed like dark fingers.
Forever.
Mark and Sarah noticed things moving on their own, doors creaking open, toys rearranged. At night, Emily's whispers grew urgent, often in Turkish, words none understood, but filled with dread.
Come, play with me.
Darkness seemed to pool in the house. One night, Mark saw a silhouette dart past the hallway, too quick to be a shadow. The air felt suffocating. The temperature dropped drastically. Emily's eyes glowed brighter.
I'm always waiting and watching.
Desperate, Mark found an old Ottoman manuscript referencing a Labubu doll used by a sorcerer to trap restless spirits. The curse twisted after his death, binding the darkness to the doll. The warning, never let the doll be near a child's sleep.
Break the seal.
Emily's demeanor darkened. She spoke in guttural tones, eyes unblinking, voice cold. Sarah found her chanting an ancient phrase over Mira. The doll's smile grew wider, cracks seeming to deepen.
Join us.
Objects vanished, family photos, toys, even Mark's watch. Shadows thickened, and strange cold spots appeared throughout the house. One night, the family dog disappeared without a trace.
One by one.
That fateful night, as the clock struck 3:33 a.m., the Turners vanished without a trace. No screams, no signs of struggle, only an eerie silence filled the empty rooms. The house seemed to hold its breath, as if swallowing their very existence whole. In the dim moonlight filtering through cracked windows, Mira remained seated on the shelf, her cracked porcelain face eerily serene, her yellow eyes glowing faintly in the darkness. Dust slowly settled around her, as if time itself hesitated to move past this cursed object. Neighbors reported strange lights flickering through the blinds and whispered of cold drafts that seemed to seep from the house's walls. Some say, at night, if you stand outside the empty Turner residence, you can still hear faint, unsettling whispers carried by the wind. Soft pleas, promises, and chilling laughter that never quite reaches the ears fully. Mira watches, waiting patiently. The curse never sleeps, and the darkness will find its next victim.
You belong to the darkness now.
Days after the Turners disappeared, Detective Isabel Reyes, a seasoned officer with Filipino roots, was assigned to investigate the strange case. When she entered the abandoned Virginia home, a cold shiver ran down her spine. In the living room, resting innocently on the cracked wooden floor, was Mira, the cursed Labubu doll, her yellow eyes still glowing faintly in the dark. Isabel hesitated, then carefully picked up the doll, feeling a strange pull.
You cannot run.
Isabel, determined to protect her young daughter from whatever darkness Mira carried, Isabel took the doll home, unaware that by doing so, the curse had just found a new vessel. What became of Isabel and her family remains unknown. The curse of Mira lives on, silently waiting for the next unsuspecting soul to claim. If you're drawn to dark tales of cursed objects, haunted relics, and ancient legends whispered through the ages, you're in the right place. The Turner home did not simply grow quiet that night. It became a tomb of echoes. Every breath, every whisper, every heartbeat that had once filled those rooms seemed to collapse into silence. But silence does not end a curse. It feeds it. Mira sat motionless, her porcelain face fractured yet unbroken, her yellow eyes pulsing faintly in the dark. She had claimed another family, swallowed them whole, and now she waited, not with patience, but with hunger. When Detective Isabel Reyes lifted the doll from the dust-covered floor, she believed she was retrieving evidence, a clue to a family's disappearance. But the curse was older than she knew, deeper than she could imagine. By carrying Mira out of that house, Isabel did not just take the doll into her hands, she carried it into her life, into her blood. And as the weight of the porcelain pressed cold against her palms, something stirred, not in the present, but in her memory. Because for Isabel, these eyes were not new. Somewhere deep within her, buried beneath years of duty and denial, she remembered them. The glow, the stillness, the way shadows seemed to bend whenever those eyes were near. Virginia was not the beginning of her story with Mira. It was only the return. Long before this doll crossed oceans, long before the Turner family was erased, those yellow eyes had haunted Isabel in a place far from here, in the narrow, rain-soaked alleys of Manila.
You are not alone.
3 continents, 3 families, every owner dead within a year. From the alleys of Manila, through the bustling streets of Istanbul, to a quiet house in Virginia, she travels silently, her yellow eyes watching. And now, Mira is in your home.
Hindi ka nag-isa.
Every haunted object case file has one unspoken rule, the one investigators never write down. If it moves from house to house, city to city, across oceans, and still ends up in your home, it's not following you, it's choosing you. Mira had been found in an abandoned apartment in Manila, shipped to an antiques dealer in Istanbul, sold to a collector in Virginia. Every owner was dead within a year. And now, Mira was sitting in Detective Isabel Reyes's living room.
You are not alone.
Isabel never planned to keep the doll. It had been part of a warehouse seizure, one of hundreds of strange items boxed up after a smuggling raid. She'd been tired, overworked, and thought maybe, just maybe, a little gift for Luna's 7th birthday would brighten things. It wasn't until she unwrapped the last layer of yellowed newspaper that she noticed the weight. Too heavy for its size. Cold, not like porcelain, but like something left in a freezer. Still, when she placed Mira on Luna's bed, she looked harmless. Tiny shoes, painted smile, a faded red dress that smelled faintly of old lavender, and something else, something metallic. The first night was strange. Isabel lay in bed, drifting toward sleep, when she heard Luna's laughter. Not a single giggle, but a full conversation. Pauses, responses, like someone else was in the room. When she went to check, Luna was asleep, breathing slow, eyes shut. But Mira was no longer on the bed. She was sitting on the floor, directly facing the doorway, her head tilted to one side, as though listening for something in the hall.
Laro tayo.
By the third night, Isabel woke to a rhythmic sound. It wasn't coming from the street. It wasn't the apartment's old pipes. It was nails scratching from Luna's wall. She grabbed her flashlight and followed the sound. Each scrape was deliberate, almost methodical. When she opened Luna's door, the sound stopped instantly. And that's when she saw it. On the wall above the bed, faint letters carved into the paint. A single word. Fish. Tagalog. Return.
Let's play.
Isabel had seen this before. Not the doll, but the signs. She was 9 years old again, in her grandmother's house on Siquijor Island. At night, she'd lie awake to the sound of scratching, faint at first, then closer, as if climbing up the bedpost. Some nights, it whispered in a language she didn't know. Some nights, it laughed. Her grandmother warned her never to leave toys on the bed after dark. They could be claimed, and when they were claimed, they could not be returned.
Alam ko kung saan ka natutulog.
The house in Virginia seemed to hold its breath that night. The rain had stopped, but the air hung heavy, damp, and unnervingly still. Isabel sat at the kitchen table, sifting through old Manila photographs, her fingers trembling slightly. She didn't notice at first, but Mira was no longer sitting in her daughter's room. The doll now rested on the counter across from her, head tilted unnaturally far to one side, those glassy yellow eyes fixed on her. She tried to convince herself it was her daughter's doing. Kids move toys around all the time, but the thought lodged in her mind like a splinter. I didn't hear any footsteps.
Halika na, maglaro tayo.
Long before Virginia, before the Turners, before Isabel wore a badge, there was Manila. She was 8 years old, living in a cramped, crumbling apartment building where the walls sweated in the humid heat. Her grandmother often warned her about mga anito, spirits that clung to objects, feeding on children's laughter until it turned into screams. One monsoon season, a strange toy vendor appeared in the alley. He had no stall, no cart, just a burlap sack from which he pulled dolls with unsettlingly lifelike eyes. The neighbors whispered he came from the island of Siquijor, where curses were born. That was the first time Isabel saw a doll with yellow eyes. It wasn't called Mira then, but something about its crooked smile and stillness stayed with her for years, buried deep in memory, until now.
Come, let's play.
Isabel woke at 3:33 a.m. No reason, just a jolt, as if pulled from a dream by invisible hands. She listened. The house was silent, except for the faint creak of the hallway floorboards. She reached for her sidearm out of instinct, but stopped halfway, realizing the sound wasn't footsteps. It was lighter, irregular, like porcelain tapping wood. She rose and followed it to her daughter's room. The bed was empty. The window was closed. Mira sat neatly in the middle of the mattress, hands folded in her lap, head straight now, staring at the doorway. Beneath the silence, a low hum seemed to come from the doll, almost mechanical, until It began to form words.
Isa ka na sa amin na ngayon.
At sunrise, the house was quiet again. Too quiet. Isabel searched every room, every closet, every corner, calling her daughter's name until her throat burned. Nothing. The back door was still locked. The windows were untouched. It was as if the child had dissolved into the air. In the living room, Mira sat alone on the couch, her dress stained with a single dark smear. Isabel's hands shook as she reached for the doll. Its porcelain was ice cold, and she swore she felt the faintest heartbeat pulsing within. Somewhere in the distance, a train horn wailed, but it sounded twisted, wrong, like it was screaming.
You are one of us now.
By nightfall, Isabel was gone too. The neighbors only remembered seeing a single figure at her front window, small, motionless, with yellow eyes that glowed faintly even in the dark. The doll, once again, would be found hundreds of miles away, waiting for its next home. So if you have a porcelain doll in your house, one that never seems to stay where you left it, look closely. Does it have yellow eyes? Does it call itself Mira? If so, you may already be part of her game.
I'm already here.
The Virginia night never truly recovered. Though Isabel's cries echoed through her empty home, the house itself grew colder, darker, as if something essential had been taken with the child. The Labubu doll remained, but not for long. Objects like Mira do not linger where their work is finished. They move, they wait, they choose. Weeks later, far from the quiet neighborhood, a locked shipment left the United States. No record of who signed the transfer, no name on the manifest. Only a crate, sealed with heavy nails and warnings scrawled in forgotten languages. Inside, yellow glass eyes staring into eternal darkness. By the time the crate arrived in Washington, D.C., the destination was already waiting. Beneath the city, within the government's most secret archive, was a chamber of cursed things. Every item stored away by those who believed containment was safety. And on that night, Mira's journey continued. For what had once haunted a family was now ready to haunt the world of scholars, collectors, and those arrogant enough to believe they could study her. Mira was patient. Mira was eternal. And as the locks clicked open on the sealed archive doors, her story was only beginning again.
From house to hall, from blood to archive, I choose again.
Deep within the hidden chambers of the National Occult Collection, the air is thick with dust and old incense. Hundreds of artifacts line the walls: amulets, voodoo dolls, ritual masks, and cursed relics collected from across the world. And among them sits a doll, not just any doll. Mira, the Labubu doll, with her cracked porcelain face and unblinking yellow eyes, stares into eternity. She is silent, she is patient, and she has chosen a new home. Those who seek to study her, to catalog her darkness, believe they are in control. But Mira is never controlled. Mira chooses, and once chosen, there is no escape.
You think you see me, but I have always seen you.
Dr. Evelyn Carter, senior researcher at the National Occult Collection, walked through the dimly lit halls. Every step echoed off the stone floors. The smell of incense and aged paper filled the air. Hundreds of objects, each with its own story of torment and tragedy, lined the shelves. Mira's case sat at the center of a sealed room labeled Restricted Extreme Risk. Evelyn had read the reports: previous handlers gone missing, sudden deaths, unexplained phenomena. But curiosity, pride, and obsession drew her closer. She paused, staring at Mira. For a fraction of a second, it seemed the doll's yellow eyes gleamed, reflecting her own fear back at her.
Curiosity, always fatal.
Evelyn carefully lifted Mira from the crate, gloves sliding over the cold, heavy porcelain. The doll was heavier than it looked, unnaturally so. As she set Mira on the examination table, a shiver ran down her spine. It wasn't fear, something darker, a premonition, an instinct that told her she was already part of something much bigger than herself. Nearby, talismans and masks seemed to twitch, small movements, almost imperceptible. Evelyn leaned closer, inspecting the cracks in Mira's face, the yellowed glass eyes, and the faint scent of metal beneath the lavender. Something underlying, sinister.
You are already chosen.
Evelyn left the archive, thinking she had secured Mira safely. But in the darkness, shadows moved differently. Objects not touched by human hands shifted positions. The voodoo dolls leaned closer. Masks' hollow eyes glinted with a cold intelligence. Mira's yellow eyes glowed faintly in the moonlight streaming through the small, high window. Evelyn felt eyes on her as she walked home, though she knew she was alone.
Even when you leave, I am here.
By the following day, Evelyn noticed something unsettling. Every cursed object in the room, seemingly inert before, began showing subtle signs of life. Small scratches on amulets, movements in figurines, masks tilting toward the doll. Mira was awakening them. She was no longer a single cursed entity. She was a nucleus of a growing, connected darkness.
They awaken because I awaken.
Evelyn discovered an old Ottoman manuscript detailing the Labubu Doll ritual. It spoke of the doll as a collector of spirits, capable of activating dormant objects and creating a network of cursed items. Every object had a purpose: to feed, to trap, to extend Mira's reach. Evelyn realized, with growing horror, that handling the doll was not studying her, it was joining her.
Read carefully, or be read by me.
That night, Evelyn dreamed of the archive. The walls stretched, the shelves twisted into endless corridors. Cursed objects floated, moving toward a central point. Mira's eyes appeared everywhere, glowing, staring. A chorus of whispers spoke in unison: "Choose or be chosen." Evelyn awoke drenched in sweat, feeling the doll's weight in her hands, even though she had left her at the lab.
You cannot wake. You are mine.
Returning to the archive, Evelyn found the artifacts arranged differently. Objects she hadn't touched now faced Mira. The air was colder, heavier. The walls seemed to pulse slightly, shadows moving as if breathing. Evelyn realized Mira wasn't just an object. She was a living presence, extending her consciousness through everything around her.
Everything is mine, including you.
Evelyn tried to document her observations, but the artifacts interfered. Pens rolled, books opened, masks tilted violently. Mira's influence spread faster than her understanding. It was as if the doll's consciousness was growing exponentially, commanding every cursed item in the room to serve her will.
They listen, they obey, and so will you.
Panic set in. Evelyn tried to leave, but the doors resisted. Heavy, impossible weight. Mira's yellow gaze followed her every move. The entire room seemed alive, objects shifting, shadows growing. Evelyn understood. She had been chosen. There was no escape. The collector's obsession had trapped her in Mira's expanding darkness.
You belong as I belong.
Evelyn accepted the truth. Mira was more than cursed. She was a collector, a network, a sentient entity manipulating everything in her vicinity. Handling her wasn't research, it was submission. Mira chooses her vessels, and Evelyn had been the latest. And she realized, too late, that the curse extended beyond the room, beyond the screen, beyond the audience. Anyone hearing this story might already be next.
Did you listen carefully? Now you are chosen too.
The world believes the darkness ends when the object is contained. Evelyn had learned too late. Mira does not obey containment. She watches, waits, and moves silently across oceans and homes. When the National Occult Collection's doors slammed shut behind her, it was only the beginning. Each artifact, every cursed doll, every whispered secret, their energies pulsed like veins carrying life beyond the physical. Mira's consciousness expanded, reaching out, threading invisible lines across continents, tracing the footsteps of those who would next encounter her. Somewhere in Virginia, a shadow moved unnoticed. A small crate, sealed but humming faintly, rested in a quiet attic, forgotten by all but one who understood the warning too late. Inside, the doll's yellow eyes glimmered in the dim light, reflecting decades of sorrow and despair. The air itself seemed to pulse, whispering promises of unfinished business, of rituals yet to be completed, of a power that could not be restrained by glass or walls. And now the source called. Across the seas, the forests of Siquijor waited, ancient stones and moss-covered shrines breathing with a quiet anticipation. Mira's path was no accident. Her journey had been deliberate, her awakening inevitable. Every soul she touched, every house she haunted, every object she claimed led her here, back to where her curse had begun, back to the ritual that could either end her or unleash her fully upon the world.
From shadows to shores, the origin awaits, and I am coming home.
For decades, Mira, the Labubu Doll, crossed continents, leaving despair in her wake. From Manila to Istanbul to Virginia, she collected souls, twisting families' lives into nightmares. And now, the source of her power, the island of Siquijor in the Philippines, calls her back. Hidden in forests and old stone shrines, an ancient ritual waits, promising either salvation or the final release of the curse. Tonight, the story reaches its ultimate conclusion.
You cannot run. The source awaits.
Years ago, Father Miguel, while investigating mysterious occult artifacts in Virginia, discovered a decrepit house abandoned after a series of unexplained disappearances. In a small attic room, he found a baby swaddled in torn blankets, crying silently. Beside the child sat a cracked porcelain doll with unblinking yellow eyes, Mira. Miguel realized immediately this was no ordinary doll. It radiated a presence that chilled the air. The house had been the center of a long-forgotten cult ritual, trapping hundreds of restless spirits. Mira's energy clung to the baby, and Miguel understood. The child had been protected and observed by a vessel of immense supernatural power.
Found, chosen, always watching.
Miguel studied the doll carefully, consulting old manuscripts and local legends. He learned Mira was not merely a doll, but a vessel capable of collecting and binding hundreds of spirits, each soul feeding the doll's consciousness. The Virginia house had been a containment site, and the child's survival was a sign of Mira's selective will. Miguel knew he could not leave the doll in Virginia. Its power needed to be contained and neutralized. Only at Mira's origin, the island of Siquijor, could the curse potentially be confronted.
You think you understand, but you only obey.
Father Miguel, now joined by Ana, a folkloric researcher, and Tala, a local shaman, travels to Siquijor with Mira securely packed in a ritual crate. The baby, unharmed, is watched over carefully. Miguel recounts to the team how Mira had silently bonded with the child in Virginia. Nights when the doll's gaze seemed to lull the infant to sleep. Small movements when unobserved, subtle energy that Miguel recognized as both protective and predatory. The team senses the doll's awareness as though Mira herself is guiding them toward her birthplace.
Home. Finally home.
Deep in the jungle, they reach an ancient stone circle overgrown with moss and roots. Tala begins spreading protective herbs and salt, while Ana sketches sigils in the earth. Miguel sets the crate in the center. The baby, asleep, stirs as Mira's yellow eyes peer through the crate, pulsing with light. Miguel recalls how in Virginia, the doll had silently chosen the child, marking him as connected to her network of trapped spirits. Now, the ritual must confront the collective entity itself, not just the physical doll.
See them. They all belong to me.
Miguel opens Mira's crate. The doll rises slightly, yellow eyes wide. Shadows stretch from her, forming semi-transparent ghostly faces circling the circle. The team feels an oppressive weight. The spirits within Mira react violently to the ritual's intent. The doll is no longer just porcelain. It is a nucleus of collected souls, observing and judging every motion of the humans around her.
Claimed, all claimed, as will you.
As the lunar eclipse starts, Miguel, Anna, and Tala begin the incantations. Each soul within Mira resists, manifesting as wind, shadows, and spectral forms. The jungle reacts, trees groan, rocks tremble. The team struggles to maintain focus as Mira's consciousness radiates outward, probing their minds. Even the baby stirs, sensing the tension in the doll's power.
Try. You cannot contain me.
Hundreds of ghostly forms rise from Mira, each one a soul trapped over decades. They swirl violently, clawing at the air and at the team's sanity. Anna glimpses the horrors of past victims in their eyes. Even Tala's hands shake as the protective energy strains against the collective power. The baby cries, though no sound escapes as Mira's gaze sweeps over all.
They are mine, all mine, as will you be.
The ritual reaches its peak as the eclipse darkens the sky. Mira's yellow eyes blaze, reflecting countless trapped souls, each screaming silently. Miguel and Tala chant desperately. Anna traces the final sigils in the dirt, sweat and fear mingling with the humid jungle air. Mira levitates, porcelain limbs twitching unnaturally, shadows stretching like tendrils toward the team. Every attempt to bind her power is met with resistance. The spirits push back, manifesting as gusts of wind, spectral hands, and voices repeating the names of victims from past centuries. The baby stirs again, sensing the immense energy, but remains unharmed, as if protected by Mira herself, though the doll's intent is unknowable.
You cannot end me. I am eternity.
As the ritual continues, Mira begins to shift. Her porcelain shell cracks and dissolves into a swirling mass of spirits, each one wailing and clawing at the team's senses. She is no longer just a doll. She is the collective consciousness of hundreds of souls, pulsing with energy and intent. Miguel realizes the horrifying truth. Mira was never a single vessel. Every human she touched, every family she haunted, every object she influenced has fed this entity. The ritual can either contain her here on Siquijor, or she will extend beyond the physical, beyond the island, reaching anyone who knows her story.
Do you see me now? I am beyond form. I am everywhere.
The team completes the final incantation. The vortex collapses. Mira's physical form disappears. Silence falls over the jungle. For a moment, relief, a sense of victory. But the yellow glow does not vanish. It flickers within the shadows, within the sigils, within the whispers. Miguel understands. The curse is no longer bound to a doll. It is now ethereal, transmitted through the story itself, through anyone who has witnessed or listened to her legend. The baby sleeps peacefully, a final sign that Mira has moved on. But her presence lingers, unseen, waiting.
Contained for now, but I have already touched
You've seen her journey from the haunted streets of Manila, through shadowed alleys of Istanbul, to silent homes in Virginia, and finally to the ancient, cursed forests of Siquijor. Mira, the Labubu Doll, has chosen her victims, collected their spirits, and expanded her reach across oceans and decades. And now she's watching you. Every shadow, every corner, every toy on your shelf could be hers. The question is simple. Will you notice her before it's too late? If you think your home is safe, think again. Mira doesn't ask, she chooses. And once she chooses, there's no turning back. Join the countless others who have followed her dark story. Subscribe now, hit the notification bell, and stay alert, because each video reveals more of her curse, more of the secrets of haunted dolls, cursed objects, and true paranormal terror. Remember, she's already here, and she's always watching.
Subscribe.